This is Maggie.
I'm Jessica.
And we are with Overcomers, and this is a podcast that we want to talk about mental health. It's for overcoming trauma, healing, and the process of healing. So I hope that you stay tuned in. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you.
So we were talking earlier about healing, and you asked a really, really good question. You said to me, what is healing?
Right.
And do you want to elaborate what's healing?
Like what I think healing is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like healing is identifying an issue, meeting it head on, picking it apart, trying to study your behaviors because of certain situations or traumas that you may have experienced in the past, trying to overcome them, heal from them, knowing when you're healed from that situation. I would think that it's maybe you're able to discuss the situation without feeling the same emotions that you did when you were dealing with it. Maybe not to be so emotional, maybe to be able to help others through similar situations with compassion and things like that. But it is hard for me to identify, when you've overcome, when you're in the next level.
I think that what you said is correct. I think that when you reach that point of knowing that you are healed, you can talk about it. Or some people can't talk about their pain. They can't talk about their trauma. So obviously, they're not healed yet.
Right.
I think that when you're able to talk about it, and even though it may bring some kind of a sadness, you're able to go through the whole story and be impactful. Right. I think that you deliver the message more of like, I'm an overcomer, I'm a conqueror versus I'm the victim.
Right.
I think that when you're healed, you don't blame people anymore for what they did to you. You understand that that's the life that was handed to you. That's the outcome that you got, and then you grew from it. I think that when you stay in the state of not being healed is you're constantly seeing yourself as the victim still, and you're constantly seeing yourself as blaming other people for what they did to you and never really owning up to your part of it. And now, I'm not saying in all cases, because there are some people that have been abused and they were not responsible for that, but right. Other people that were in their care should have cared more to take that responsibility for them. The Bible does say, though, that Psalms 147:3 says he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So it's like God is saying he will heal you in his timing. And I think that the timing is when we're ready, when we want it, when we go after it, when we go after the healing that we want and we can see it in other people, then I think that's when God says, I'm concerned about what you're concerned about. But if that's not your concern, then you're not ready to heal. I mean, I think it's a cycle that you have to recognize. Are you going to the same places? Are you doing the same things that lead you back into that pit? Right. Of remembering or going back to saying I'm guilty or trying to cope with it the wrong way. Right.
I had a situation a couple years back, and a friend of mine from the church, she told me that if I wanted to, she said to ask the Lord to change my heart. And I didn't believe her. I was just like, okay, but this is how I feel. This is what I want to feel. I feel strongly about this particular incident. I can't see me ever feeling any other way. But I did what she said, because I was I was at my wit's end. I had no other option. So I didn't lose anything for trying. So I did. I would pray and I would ask the Lord, please, if it isn't your will, Lord, please change my heart. Please change my heart. And that would be my prayer from nights on end. And I didn't notice, but eventually I can't pinpoint when it happened, but I did notice that my heart had changed about this particular situation. And it kind of took me back a little bit, because I was like, I couldn't see this. Back then, in the situation, I couldn't see myself here feeling this way and not being so emotionally attached to that situation that I couldn't find myself getting out of. And it was amazing. But now that I've done that, I prayed about it, and I'm here now with the situation, and it doesn't affect me the same as it did before. Now I'm kind of like, what do I do now? You know? So I guess I pray again, and I ask the Lord, please show me. Where do I go now? If I'm healing or healed, what's the next step?
I think people reach a state and say, I'm healed, I'm great, I'm good about that.
Right.
But I think that we are like onions, that we have different layers, and that our healing process is a never-ending process. When it comes to when it comes to our body, mind, soul, and spirit, we're constantly getting healed. And if you don't recognize that you need to continue the healing process, because you may have healed there's 5 areas and you've only healed in 1 and you think you're good, but you haven't healed in 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever.
Right.
Then you're going to continue to stay in that as a midget spiritually in those things versus just healing from that one trauma.
Right.
Because I think that we go through heartbreak, we go through relationships that end, we go through a loss of a loved one, we go through all of these things that cause us pain, and they're part of life, but there are some things that are deeper than others and that we don't talk about. And I think that after you heal from one, then you got to ask the Holy Spirit, what's next?
Right.
You know, and I think that once you do that, I think He reveals it to you. It's a process of seeking Him. Seek me and you'll find. Knock and it shall be open. So I think that His word says when we continue to seek Him daily, asking Him to heal us, what's my next step? That He's going to guide us, and that His voice is so subtle that if you're not careful on how you listen, you could listen to the wrong voice and say, girl, you got this, you know, you're fine, let's just do it, you know. Right. But there's another process that says, okay, I've got to go and I've got to dig deeper. Right. And it is about digging deeper. I think you shared with me the shadow journaling book about being intimate and being open about those deeper issues, and then I write it down, and even today was just like, oh my God, this is like bringing me new feelings, you know. But I think it's more of a grace that I give myself, you know, the healing. So what next would be asking the Holy Spirit, I need to know what other area in my life I need healing from.
Right.
And then waiting on the Lord and seeing what the Holy Spirit says and then taking action. I think for me recently, I asked myself that question. I feel like I've healed from a lot of traumas, a lot of pain, a lot of heartaches. So I asked, what next? For me, what next, I think, looks more like the child of me that's fearful, that gets anxious, and that I laugh when I'm in a situation that's dangerous, and I don't know why. And it's like, that's not healthy.
Right.
You know, people are like, this is serious. You know, or I panic. I go from one extreme to the X. I will go either panic in the mode of just hurry up, let's just get this done, you know, and then here comes someone that's so calm and so peaceful and says, whoa, wait a minute, like stop, and let's analyze the situation and let's deal with it the right way. Right. Because when you're in a panic mode, you will drop things, you make mistakes and do all these things. Versus if you are in a calm state, you're more able to process things and think things through. And that healing is, when you're healed, I believe that's your sound. It's a sound mind. You're making decisions based on God's principles, a sound decision that's good, that's not going to be detrimental to you. Like, who cares? Let's just drive 120 miles an hour. You know? Let's be like me. Let's not put your hands on the wheel. You know, don't do that, please. But when we are healed, we're healthy. Right. It's a healthy way, and we recognize it, and other people recognize it.
Right.
And when you sit with someone long enough, you kind of get to hear that. Okay, what are they? Are coming from a victim mentality or from a overcomer mentality?
Right.
Or they're sharing what you've learned, and I think you've shared that with me before, where you're like, you know, you're so hard on yourself. You know, you're so self-critical, and I think that you know me more than anyone in the world. That when someone says something to you and you get upset about it, it makes you angry, there's truth to that.
Right.
And if someone says something to you and you don't say, hey, wait a minute, let me question what they say, why did I get angry, why did I feel this way? Because a lot of times the things that people say to us that trigger us or make us upset, there's some truth to them. And we have to step back and be willing as an adult, as a healthy person, and say, is there truth to that?
Right.
Why did I get upset? What made me upset?
Right.
Not all the times, but the majority of the times, you know.
You get defensive. My daughter actually brought up a point to me about me and my own patience, and she likes to label me as a very impatient person, which I'm taken back by, because I feel like I'm very patient. I feel like I'm very compassionate and passionate and
Yes.
caring and giving.
You are.
You know, with what I have and what I can offer. But for my daughter, somebody who I live with 24/7, 365, to tell me, you know, that I, you know, get angry a lot, or that I'm not as patient as I feel like I am. And then she explained to me why. Before, she's told me this before, and I was just blew her off. I'm like, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a little kid, you know? But this last time she told me, she actually elaborated and, you know, brought up some very good points about how I feel. She feels like I've always had to figure it out on my own. And I get frustrated when other people aren't like that. But I have to understand that not everybody comes from the same background. And not everybody has to depend on only themselves. So she says that I have this, if you want to get it done right, got to do it yourself mentality. And I'm like, I don't know who told her this or who she's talking to, but they need to stop. So it just really made me think, like, there are certain things that trigger me to be very annoyed and irritated, and not so patient. Yeah, and I'm just like, but I didn't see that until my current position in my workplace, when I had to deal with, you know, younger people, and, you know, they're dealing with life and going through their own, you know, trying to work out their own traumas, and me, I've already been there, I've already done that, and I'm just like, just get over it, like, this, figure it out, you know, I don't know what to tell you. But, you know, when I was them and in that situation, I had to, you know, figure my own way through it. And, you know, just because they're not doing it like me doesn't mean that they don't deserve compassion and patience, and for somebody to teach them, you know.
Yeah.
I have to learn to remember to stop and teach. But if I'm still going through it, I can't teach you how to get over it if I'm still going through it, you know.
That is a really good point, because I remember when you just said something really, really profound. When you're going through your own healing, it's hard to have the patience to teach someone else.
Right.
And so that, when I thought about that, I thought about my kids. Like, when I was raising my kids, like, my daughter said to me at my birthday, she said, you know, you're not the same person you were when we were growing up. But I was telling her, when you were little, I was trying to heal from all of the wounds and all of the scars and all of the trauma.
Right.
I didn't have the patience to care for you, to love you the way I should have. I was trying to do the best that I could with dealing with my own.
Right.
And I think that a lot of moms, a lot of parents, they didn't heal. They didn't heal properly, or they didn't even take the steps to get the healing they needed from the trauma. And they're raising children based out of their fears, traumas, and experiences,
right,
not based on the amount that God can do through them and the love and the patience, the mercy and grace that God gives us.
Right.
And so whenever you are in that type of environment, you're walking on eggshells. You are constantly like a sergeant telling them what to do, because you want to raise, you know, these strong individuals. You want them to be independent. You want them to survive what life hands to them, because life wasn't so good to either
right,
of us.
Right.
And so you want them to be better, and that at the same time you forget that they're children and they need love, they need care, they need compassion, they need forgiveness, they need mercy, and they need instruction.
Right.
And I see that now. Like, I see it now. And so I think that when you are in the middle of trying to heal yourself and all of that, don't have kids.
Yeah.
like get healed first.
Right.
Don't get into a relationship. Get your trauma healed, because you never know. I think that people that isolate themselves and don't have friendships, you never get to know what you need healing from.
Right.
Because everything is secluded.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
to your own mind.
To your own mind. And so we're like a mirror to each other. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the beautiful things about our friendship is that I've been able to mirror my life through you. That you said, but best friend, you know, this is what we call ourselves best friends. Right? This is what you've gone through. This is what you've come out of. And I think when you don't develop a good, healthy relationship with someone that can mirror back to you what you have healed from, what you have overcome, and also correct the way you're speaking to yourself, you will never know the level of healing that you need. Why? Because nobody's there to tell you, hey, wait a minute, why are you getting upset? Why are you losing your patience? Why are you doing this? Because you yourself have kept yourself so enclosed, and that is a trap of the enemy.
Right.
The enemy wants us to stay alone. The enemy wants us to be isolated. He doesn't want us to have friendships. He hates relationships. He hates unity. Why? Because as long as he keeps you isolated, he will remind you of that you're fine. You don't need healing. You don't need anybody. You got this. You can do it yourself. You're your own person. And the Word of God says that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So if you're thinking that you're doing it on your own strength, you're lying to yourself, the lie of the enemy, and you're going to be alone, and you're never going to heal, and you're going to die alone. And that is not God's will for your life. So, anyways, what were we saying?
No, that's those are some amazing points, because over the years, just growing, I mean, I'm not that old, but just getting older, being wiser, having raised a child. If I were to have a child at this age, I know things would be just completely different. I would be a completely different mother, more patient. I feel like I was so young when I had my daughter that I forced her into a lot of next levels, like walking, potty training, going to school, doing this and doing that, and I see parents now, their children still aren't potty trained at like 2.5 years old, and I'm like, what the, I don't understand that. But pediatricians will tell you, your child will let you know when they're ready to be potty trained, and I think it's a beautiful thing to allow somebody, because even though they're children, they're still just tiny humans. And so to allow somebody to learn and grow at their own pace and give them the knowledge that they need to just, grow into themselves and who they are, it's a really beautiful thing. And it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a very mature person to allow somebody else to grow in that manner. Because when you're rushing everybody behind you. And, there's a lot of steps that are missed, a lot of things that are overlooked. And too, when you feel like you're by yourself, the enemy gets in your mind and he tells you all these lies about yourself, like you're never going to be this and you're never going to be that. And well, you already missed this timeline and you already missed that timeline. And, you might as well just give up because it's never going to be any better. And that's a lie told by the enemy. That is a lie. So when you surround yourself by other people who are either healed or going through a healing journey, people who are filled inside with joy and peace and the love of God, they can share that with you, because we all have weak moments. We all have times where we just, we're not feeling 100, about ourselves, and we get down, and that's normal. But, we need people in our lives who can pick us up and remind us, hey, you know what? Feel this emotion, but after that you need to pick yourself up, and you need to remember, the Word of God, He gives you promises, and He gives you love and grace and mercy, and He gives you, there is no timeline on our lives, none. That's and true. we give our own selves these timelines, and it makes us feel anxious and sad and scared, and and it makes us feel bitter. And when we
bitter because if we don't get there, we're like, dang it, I'm already 50 and I'm still haven't done what
exactly. So then we feel like failures, Okay, I may not be where this person is, but this person didn't have to come from where I came from, And so, we need people. We need God-fearing people with love and patience to remind us, like, it's okay to not be okay sometimes, but you don't need to stay there.
Right.
And if we're by ourselves all the time, we're never going to get that.
Do you think it was hard for you to be around others at first, once you were going through your process?
Yes, I do. I feel like over my lifetime, I've pushed away a lot of people, and I've realized that now, which is surprising to me because I love people, and I have noticed about my people. I've noticed about myself. I used to be a very codependent person. I needed somebody else to be there with me all the time, to do this or do that, or to validate me or tell me, oh, you're doing this right, or whatever. just so that I could feel confident in what I was doing. But over the years, I've learned to give myself that validation, and to, you know, to not be such a codependent person, and it allows me to love other people, you know, because when you love somebody freely, it's genuine. But when you love somebody because you feel like you need them, it's scary to lose them. It's scary to think that you would ever lose them. So you become very in an unhealthy way attached to these people. And as I started to realize this about myself, I felt like I was pushing people away. I can't get attached to these people because I need to do this by myself. You know, I need to know that I can be here by myself. I need to know that I don't need this person here with me all the time. And so, and I was healing, and I was noticing all these things, and I'm pushing these people away. And then now I'm here on the other side, and I'm like, where are all my people? You know, but you know, my world has changed so much. Or even, let's just say, over the past 4 or 5 years. And things, I mean, my life went in a completely different direction than what I imagined, even as a young adult. And my environment's different. My people are different. My career is different. Everything is different. And I'm learning, you know, to embrace people and everything that they bring to the table. You know, the way that they think and the way that they feel. You know, I don't have to agree with it, but just to listen, because sometimes when you listen, you learn. And
no way.
and not just you know, lessons that you can take for yourself, but it also teaches you about that person. You know, because when people tell you something about themselves, or they tell you who they are, you have to believe it because they know who they are. You know, and whether or not it's true. How do you know how to help somebody if you're not listening to their aches and pains? You know, somebody's going to tell you, you know, well, I did this and I did that and I feel this way and I feel that way and I just know that I'm not going to do this and do that, you know, but you can help them. You can talk them through it. You can tell them based off your own experiences, or, you know, so on and so forth. And I genuinely love to see people do good and be happy. And how would I know how to help them if I'm not listening to what they're saying? You know, healing is a lot. Healing is a lot.
So those of you that are tuning in, we are talking about what is healing. How do you know you have been healed? And 3, what is after healing? What do you do after you've been healed from that?
Exactly. Another thing, I was recently, well, I wouldn't say recently, for a few years now, I've been really getting into church and learning about the Lord and His Word, and they talk a lot about purpose. Oh man, that is a big one for me. That is a big one for me because what is my purpose? You know, and I don't know, and I know I can't be the only one that feels that way. Right. And, you know, I meet these people in church and they're so confident and strong and so just confident in what they're doing, and I'm like, how did you get there? Did you always know that that's what you wanted to do, or that's where you were going to go? And now that I'm in the healing process, and there are things that I have healed from, but how do I use that? I guess is my question. Like, what's the process after healing? How do I take what I've healed from and put it to good use to help somebody else? Do I join a ministry, or do I write a book, or do I sing a song, or do I, you know, like, or do I just sit back and let life happen around me? Like, what do I do with that healing? How do I turn it into a purpose? And what is my purpose? You know, like, how do you figure out your purpose?
I remember T.D. Jakes has been like my pastor, mentor, without him even knowing for years, because I needed a lot of help going through trauma when he first came out with Women That Are Loosed. And I remember him saying the thing that God brings you out of is the thing that He will take you back to bring people from, because you understand the process, the healing it took, and the pain you went through. And I remember that from that time on, how was I going to get there? I had no idea. But I remember every step of the way that He took me through, to Longview, to do this, to do that. Every step that I have in ministry that I have gone through, whether it was volunteering in a certain thing, whether it's working, I grew so much in my job. because I had teachers around me. I didn't know that I was being taught.
Right.
But after years of leaving, I realized, oh my God, I was in training for this. And then when I went to House of Hope and then Restoring Joy Ministry, teaching on, forgiveness and forgiving people that have hurt you, and walking in that process of just teaching those things to the women that were there. Years later, it was like, okay, now that you've taught it, now you know enough about it. Now let's go through it. And I'm like, God, I thought I forgave. Okay, and so even though I had forgiven the people that had done those things to me, there was something more. You know that song that says, He's working all things for your good. He's behind the scenes.
Yes.
Waymaker.
Yes.
He's working all things out for your good. It reminded me that throughout all this entire walk with Him, that even though I was just trying to discover what my purpose was, what I needed, and my heart was in it just to do and to be, that, like they say, you're accountable for what you know. So I knew what unforgiveness would do.
Right.
I knew that if I didn't forgive others, God could not forgive me. This 1 Peter 5:10 says that after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. I think that when you really, really come to a place of healing, is that you are able to you're restored. You can confirm that you're restored. How? Because God gives you the strength to do the unthinkable, to do the impossible without His strength, and to establish you. How does He establish you? That now you're established and you're grounded in those roots of forgiveness.
Right.
That no matter what has happened, no matter what has come your way, you have been able to forgive. And I think for me, that has been huge because, okay, all this trauma I've endured and I've gone through and I've forgiven. And then something fresh comes up.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute. Like, what's going on here?
We've already been here.
We've been here. Like, I don't want to do this again. Like, no. And so I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? Like, so it's like, am I going to be grounded in forgiveness? Am I going to walk this out? Am I really going to forgive? And what does that look like now?
Right.
Because before, that person's dead. That person's gone. That person's no longer in my life. Or I've done away with that relationship. Or I've done away with those friends. But now, this is fresh. And I have to look at this person.
Right.
So it's like, what do I do? How do I do it? And I have learned that it takes time because we're still human. And it takes digging deeper and saying, God, who am I?
That's good.
Who am I really?
You want to continue to love people, and you want to be there when they're in their victory, and you want them to be able to stand up and say one day, oh, this person loved me when I was at my lowest, and here I am on top, and they're still here. And we all want that for people that we love and we care about. But sometimes we have to be able to recognize when somebody's just constantly taking from us. If you feel drained or tired, or this person just always is bringing you down. I think that's when we have to be able to step away and love them from afar, pray for them from afar. Sometimes people need to be able to step away to make that change. And then maybe you can see them again later, whether it be in person or on TV, or, they wrote a book, or, whatever the case may be. I think that has a lot to do with attachment issues. For me personally, as somebody who went through the trauma and the things that I did as a person, it's hard for me to let go of people. It is very hard for me to let go of people, because I like to see the good in everybody. I love to, I see all the good attributes, and I want to hang on those, and I'm like, I see your potential, and I see what you can do, and I see who you can be. But if they're just not that person, I have to learn to let go, because
that is hard.
It is hard because you want to drag it out in them, but we have to remember it's not up to us to change people. The only person we can change is ourselves. And I think what I've learned of just being in the Christian world, and I say that like that, because it is a different world. It's a different world than from where I came from. And being on this side of the Christian world, I'm definitely not perfect. I could be more consistent. I know that, but I still consider myself a Christian, and I know more now than I did then. And I feel like being on this side of it, people their expectations of somebody who claims to be a Christian is so far-fetched.
Oh, yeah.
It's so unrealistic, because
are you meeting those expectations?
Right, exactly. And I'm just like, I shouldn't be condemned because I want to love you and pray for you, and because I want to show you the love maybe you were never shown before.
Right.
And sometimes it is disheartening, and discouraging, because I'm just like, this is who I am. I know this is who I am, but I don't want you to hate me for it, And people tend to be more judgy, of you. And I just think that
I agree.
I feel like, we should change that. We're still people. We still make mistakes.
Yeah.
We still go through things. If not even more so, because we're trying to work through all these past traumas. It's almost like we're bringing it on ourselves. But it's necessary,
It is necessary.
Necessary for growth.
Because a lot of people think now, you're in the Christian world. It's a Christianese language. Don't go back to the past. Don't go back to the past. And I agree, you don't go back to it, but if you're doing the same cycles and you're something that's hindering you from being fearful of going forward, there's got to be something there that you've got to dig deep and heal completely. If we want to be whole, I think. Can God do it in an instant? God can do anything He wants to do. Jesus Christ came to die for all, but it's up to the individual to want to.
Right.
And
because He gives us free will. And I tried to explain that actually to somebody who came to me and was asking me, well, if God can change everything, if God can make everything better, then why doesn't He? And I learned, that, because He gives us free will, if you want to go off and do something, He's going to allow you to do that. But He's going to be there with opening arms when you're ready to come back. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that impacted me, that I just remember always, is that He always lets us pick up where we left off. He never makes us start over. Mm-hmm. It's not a punishment. We're not being punished, if we want to veer off on our own direction, And He's not a punishing God. He's not a hateful God. He's not a vengeful God. He's loving. He's patient. He's graceful. He has mercy. And I think it's important for people to know that, if you're going down this path of I don't know, righteousness, I guess, for the lack of a better word, and you veer off on your own and you feel like you can't come back, that is not true. You can come back, and He's there and He's waiting for you right where you left off. And I think it's so important for people to know that, because of shame and guilt veer people off to a very dark place sometimes, and sometimes they don't come back, and I think that is sometimes, especially if you have a Christian in your life, somebody who's close to you, I don't want to say it's a fail, but it almost is a fail, because somebody should have been there to reiterate and to remind you, like, He's here. You don't have to stay there. That isn't who you are. Don't let your shame and your guilt put you over here and keep you here. Bring it. The Lord wants it. He wants it all. He wants you just as you are. And I think it's so important for people to know that. You don't have to be perfect to start going to church. You don't have to be perfect to start reading the Bible. You don't have to be perfect to start working through your own process and healing. And, this is who we are, and He wants us just like this.
I think He wants us to crawl sometimes to Him. And even in our pain, even in our whatever, He wants us to crawl to Him and say, listen, I really need your help.
Right.
And
it takes a lot. It takes a lot for people to ask for help, because we're in a society that teaches us to be so independent and so, I don't need nobody and this and that. And it's not true. It really isn't true. We're people. We're not meant to be by ourselves.
We're wired for love.
We are. Oh my goodness. And that's the worst. It's the worst and the best. Because that love can either make you or break you, but it's a beautiful thing. I would much rather, I can say personally that, on my deathbed 100 years from now, I would much rather say I loved 1,000 times than to say I've never loved at all.
Yeah, that is true.
Because that what a life, to never have loved, to never experience that, to not have those stories. You know, when you first meet somebody, your heart starts to race and your hands get all sweaty and you're excited about what's going to happen, and when and if that love ever ends, you know, it's sad and it's disheartening, you know, and it can break you, you know. I mean, you were there for me through my divorce, and that almost broke me. It almost broke me for a lot of reasons. For one, because I didn't expect it to end. Two, I thought my life was planned out until the day I died, you know. So now I'm going into this unknown, you know, and don't know what to expect, don't know how I'm going to do it, and I can't see myself being able to provide any life for me, especially with the way that the things are now, you know, so expensive out there. And, you know, I was just so fearful, you know, how am I going to provide my daughter with the life that she deserves and the opportunities that I want her to have when, you know, I don't even know how I'm going to put a roof over my head. And when I tell you my God came through, he was there. He was there. I mean, from out of everywhere, the unexpected. Like, so many people came. When I got my first apartment, my very first apartment at age 32, living by myself for the first time ever, so many people came from all over. I got a 2-bedroom apartment. I didn't have nothing to put in it. Nothing. My daughter didn't even have a bed. And my family, all of my family, all these people came together. And by the time I moved into that apartment, I had a fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment. From beds to couches to dishes. I mean, I just never would have imagined in 1,000 years that would have been me. I was just so overwhelmed with, you know, gratitude. I just didn't know what to do with it. And so that was just the first time he showed me himself. Like, I mean, I didn't realize that that's what I was looking at, but that was the first time he revealed himself to me. And looking back on it, literally gives me butterflies, because I'm like, I was blown away. The second time he revealed himself to me, I had kind of gotten into, I guess, a situationship with a person that, of course, I wanted more with. And we weren't on the same page. So, okay, we're going to cut our ties. We're going to go our separate ways. And again, here I am again dealing with this heartache. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this? You know, why do I keep going after these people that don't want the same as I do? You know, like, what is it that I need to change that I can attract people that want what I want, you know? And I'm sitting here and I'm heartbroken, but never did I through that whole process, the heartbreak was different. The divorce heartbreak, I mean, I just couldn't see myself coming out of that. It was horrible. But this heartbreak, it was bad. I felt it. I was sad, but it wasn't the same. You know, it wasn't, I could still get up. I could still go to work. I could still do what I needed to do. Even if I was just going through the motions, at least I was going through them, you know? And one night the Lord came to me. And I remember asking you way back when, how do you know that the Lord's saying these things to you? And it's not just your own subconscious mind telling you what you want to hear. And I remember you telling me, you just wait, because when he speaks to you, you're going to know it's him. And I was like, okay, Maggie. So one night I'm asleep, and one of my biggest fears when I got my own place was that I was like, I'm never going to be able to sleep. I'm scared of the dark. You know, like, I literally, even when I was married, I could not have all the lights off in a room. I needed light. I needed to be able to open my eyes and see around me. And so now that I was by myself, I was terrified. I was like, I'm going to have my own room. I don't think I've ever had my own room, you know? Like, this is insane. I'm a grown woman scared of the dark. And so one night I went home. I was by myself. My mom was at work. My daughter was spending the night somewhere. I was in this place by myself. And I said, Jessica, you are a grown woman. Nothing is going to get you. The boogeyman does not exist. You turn off these lights and you go to sleep. And I was like, yes, ma'am. I turned off them lights, put my back to the door, and I went straight to sleep. Slept through the night. But after this particular time that I had gone through this second heartbreak, I was feeling so sad. I literally cried myself to sleep. Because I just couldn't believe that I had allowed this to happen to me again. I was sad about the breakup. I was sad that I'm going through this again. You know, like you would think I would learn my lesson the first time. And I fall asleep crying. And I was home alone. And I remember feeling, I had my back to the door, and I remember feeling somebody's weight, like a body on me, just kind of just like arm over me this way, and then just kind of like hugging me. And when I was asleep, I was like, I remember struggling, like I couldn't move, like if somebody was really on me. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I woke up and I was like, what? And I turned around because for a split second, I thought it was my daughter. You know, like, what do you want? and I was like, what? And there was nobody there. Nobody. And the old me would have got up and flipped on all the lights. I'd have called 911. Somebody's in my house. Please, somebody come help me. I would have left. But as soon as I realized that it was not my daughter, I knew it was the Lord. I knew it was. It was a hug. It was comfort. To let me know that I was not alone, that I was okay. And I instantly went back, rolled right back over and went right back to sleep and slept through the night. Probably one of the best nights of sleep I've ever gotten.
Wow. And
I was not scared, which is I know it doesn't seem like much to anybody, but to me that was a huge thing, because the dark was really something that I was scared of. So for me to feel somebody on me in the middle of the night and turn around and nobody be there, I've never felt that level of comfort ever in my life. Wow. And so I feel like in some sort of way I healed from this heartache. You know, like my heart will never be broken the same again. I'm not saying I'll never go through heartache, but I know that I'm going to be okay. You know, I know that I can, you know, pray and he's there with me and I'm not alone. And, you know, physically maybe I can't see anybody, but I'm not alone. And I think a big part of me, that is something that I've healed from. So now I need to figure out what to do with that.
Well, that's what we're here.
Yeah.
What would you tell? And I want you to look at the camera. And I want you to tell, what would your words be to someone who has gone through heartbreak, and is, or in heartbreak right now, and trying to heal from it, and knowing what healing looks like and what to do? Well,
the first thing I can say is healing is not a pretty process. You know, not the whole process. I feel like it is very important to allow yourself to feel these emotions, you know, the anger, the sadness, the just all of it, you know, because you can't get over something if you never deal with it. And it is very, very important to face those feelings head on. Please take the time to heal. The worst advice anybody could ever give you is to get over somebody, is to get with somebody else. That is the worst advice in the world, because you're skipping over a whole process, you know, and it is an important process. It really is. Because how can you learn to love somebody else when you don't even know how to love yourself? And how can you teach somebody to love you if you don't even know how to love you? You know, it's important to have boundaries. It's important to know your limits. It's important to know your desires and your wants and who you are, so that when you invite somebody into your world, you know, you're strong-minded and you don't just fall into what they want you to be or who they want you to be. You are who you are, and this is what you bring to the table. And same vice versa, you know, you need somebody who knows who they are and knows what they bring to the table, so you can come together and build. And you can't get there if you never heal. So the best advice I can give you is to heal. Take that time, be alone, especially when you've been in a long time relationship. Take that time, heal, find out who you are, find out what you love. After you've been in a relationship for a decade or more, you know, you are one with this person. So now you have to learn who you are by yourself. And it's a process, and it's an important process. And it may seem unnecessary, and it hurts, and it's ugly, and it gets lonely, and you can get sad, but those are all very important. It's all a part of a very important process. And that's, honestly, that is the best advice I can give anybody, is to take time.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you for tuning in to Overcomer Podcast with Jessica Vargas and Maggie Wynn. Thank you. Share it, leave us a comment. I will be leaving some scriptures that you can look up, and also some helpful books you can read. Number one, the Bible. Number two, there's some other resources that I'll link down, so you can also go to and be able to find what it is that you're looking for during this time. And remember, forgiveness is not an easy process, but it is necessary to move forward in your healing. Psalm 71:20 says, though you have made me see troubles many and bitter, you will restore my life again. From the depths of the earth, you will again bring me up. You will increase my honor and comfort me once again. God is a God of comfort, and He will be the lifter of your head. And if you're facing shame, hurt, and belittlement, know that God is for you, not against you, when you really seek Him with all your heart and forgive those that have hurt you, so that you can be forgiven and move forward. Thank you for tuning in and for watching. God bless you.
God bless you.
Look at what grace can do.